you happy with the clap?
Yes. That was a good clap.
Make you feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello, gentlemen.
How are you?
I'm great.
Very good.
I thought that was the last podcast.
No.
Oh.
We're going to do a really cool one.
Are you disappointed?
All right.
You look a little disappointed.
I'm a little tired. Yeah.
I can understand.
We've just got one more after this and we'll be good.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're messing with me.
Nope.
You're doing that one solo.
No, I was going to let you do it solo. My back hurts.
Yeah, well, there you go. See?
Introduce yourself.
I'm Dori Epstein. I am with the Institute.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
am a senior business advisor, and I get to do cool stuff like co-facilitate with Michael Smith on the high performance group. I run the strategic masterminds that we're launching, that we're currently running in Portland and Southern California. I'm working with him to develop more material for extended leadership intensives to really help the people,
Yeah.
going beyond helping you and your business, but really going deeper into helping people be the best that they can be.
And you've got automotive experience too through a brother, right?
Indirect.
Right.
Through osmosis. I have a twin brother who owns 3.5 shops in Southern California.
Yeah. He's been part of our little crew of Facebook friends for years, I think. Right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
John Epstein, John's Automotive Care, San Diego.
Absolutely.
He's really involved in the industry.
I'm bad
Yeah.
with names.
It's okay. We don't look anything alike, so
Okay, so I went to Leadership Intensive in San Diego a while back. Really interesting experience. And I really think that if there's one thing that you could talk about that sets the Institute apart from everybody else, it's this concept of developing from the ground up a culture, an organization, a belief system within this organization that leads it and guides it and takes it somewhere, right?
a belief system. I like that, yes.
And so that's unique. That's and I've talked to Jimmy and Kent and everybody else about that. That is because like you talk to everybody and you look at these coaching groups and you look at these coaching companies and all of them, what do? They come to you and they give you like information and they say, here's the information and you do this and the business will be successful. And it will be, right?
Absolutely.
Like the numbers do make you successful, not saying they're not. But the problem is like, how do you do that without losing what's important about yourself in the process, right? Because like there's things you like about you, there's beliefs you have, there's ethics and morals and things that you've been taught your entire life, and those things are important to you. And so some coaching companies don't do a very good job of making sure that stays intact and like that you understand and define what that is, right? And secondly, it's very much, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do and go do it, right? It's never about from the ground up developing something that you can, help the people within your organization develop as human beings.
True.
Right? Because like we talk about the technician shortage, we talk about the hiring crisis that we're seeing. Well, is it possible that some of that is because we've not done a good job of taking care of people in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely drives that. And we know that the shops who are really focused on their culture and their employees, that they have people knocking on their doors.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking for work, not just looking for work. That's the difference. They're looking for a career. They're not looking for a job. They want a career with this company because this company knows how to take care of its people. And its people means employees, vendors, as well as the customer who needs their car fixed.
This is the first time that I know of that a coaching organization in our space has started with the people, right?
Me too.
Has started at the focus of like, hey, let's start at the very bottom and build this from the ground up. Let's build a foundation underneath these organizations. Let's not just say, here's the numbers, go do this and you'll be successful. Let's talk about how do we build the foundation so they're successful and sustainable and this can work long term, right? Mm-hmm. It's the first time I've ever seen that. I know there's plenty that will say that they do that.
Right.
This is the first time I've ever seen it done.
And you want to know something cool?
What's that?
That the shop owners will connect with is that when they pay attention to their people and they are building it from their why, their mission, their purpose, and they're incorporating emotional intelligence, they're incorporating culture, aspects of culture that really matter, then they're going to drive their revenue. So
Right.
it's going to, yes, you're going to continue to grow if you're just muddling along, if you're muddling along with the numbers, et cetera.
Right.
But if you focus on emotional intelligence in your people, then that jumps to 20%. Harvard Business Review showed that it could jump up to 34% increase in revenue because you are taking care of your people. Because what happens when you take care of your people? They are more innovative. They are
Yeah.
more creative. They are more engaged.
Right.
And so you're going to get a much greater return on your investment when you do invest in focusing on culture and leadership development.
Well, I mean, you go back to what Dan said yesterday, that the why is stronger than the why not.
Absolutely.
Right. And if we don't understand that, we don't take stock of that at some point. Right. And I just found myself in this stupid situation where I'm doing something other than just running my shop. And it's interesting for me. And I shared that in the class, right? Like, because I saw a lot of people impacted from a lot of different areas, and the way that the culture in the business that they work for has impacted them and what it's changed for them. And I was thinking about it. I come into this business that had a real cultural problem. And so I've done surveys. I might even share them with you just so you can see.
I'd love to see it.
And it's like questions about, why do you think we're here? Like, what do you think we do here? Right? What's the purpose? And what makes you feel good about coming to work in the morning? Mm-hmm. What makes you feel like you're a part of something? And if you told somebody about the best part of your job, what would it be? And it was so crazy because everybody came back with like I'm here to get a paycheck. Now, wait a minute. That's not a very fulfilling life.
That's
right?
also the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
If you really want your employees to be motivated, it has to come from a why. It has to come from inside.
Yeah, because you can't force motivation on somebody.
No,
It won't work.
no. Sports, in the world of sports, a professional athlete who gets a big raise, if you will, and all of a sudden they're making way more money than they were, their performance almost always, if not always, drops off significantly because the motivation has changed. It's not about the love of the game anymore. Now it's about, oh, man, I'm making all this money.
Yeah.
And that motivation is from the outside.
And money was what, like 12th on the list as far as motivators or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
What was number one? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I can't.
I want to say it has something to do with what we're talking about, that there is
Yeah.
a sense of purpose, that there is the
Right.
engagement, that they feel that they matter,
Yeah.
that they are heard, that they are contributing. So Aaron Woods talked about that you want to get the weigh in before you get the buy-in, meaning that you're getting people to weigh in to what's happening in the business. And when they are weighing in, they feel that they matter and that they're a part of something bigger than themselves. There's purpose there built into that process, built into that kind of culture.
This is unique because nobody has ever brought psychology into the automotive space.
In this way, yes.
Right. And you've got a little bit of a psychology
A
background.
huge psychology background.
And so tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's important for everybody to know who we're talking to and why that this particular class and what you do in this organization is very different than what everybody else does.
I am so excited because I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I've taught at the college and university level for over a decade. I like to say I've been a life coach since the second grade, that this is just a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And my brother, I've watched him grow and evolve over the decades in his business and wanting to be a part of that and seeing a need and trying to find my way in. And then I go and I present at the merger and acquisition group that Michael Smith was running almost 2 years ago now.
Right. I remember that.
And, and he was like, wait a minute, we have so much in common and let's work together. And I'm like, this is awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Because I love the automotive repair industry because of my brother, having worked with him and done coaching, leadership development with some shop owners along the way and looking for a way to really get into it and have this be my main focus. And so when Michael and I cross paths and we have this great connection and then the Institute, and it just all fell together.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I've shared a little bit of this with you, but it was interesting because the people in the room weren't necessarily shop owners, right?
That's true. At that leadership intensive, you had shop owners, and then you had people you had managers, service advisors.
Yeah.
You had a little bit of everybody in that room because It benefits anybody that's willing to take it.
Right. And not
And
just
engage
in
in it.
Yeah, not just in a space of automotive.
Oh, gosh, no.
Like in your life, right?
Right.
Because like Chris came back and he was like, "Hey, I've got some work to do."
Yep.
Right? Like I've got some, as a father and as a husband, I've got some
Yes.
things to do here.
My favorite is when I'm working with clients, I'm helping them be better in their work. And I have one client that called me up and said, "Hey, next time you're here, my wife wants to go out to dinner, the three of us." I said, "Okay, that's great." And we go out to dinner and she says, "I just want to thank you because my husband is a different husband and a better father."
Yeah.
And that's what gets me the most excited.
Well, I mean, I think that what's taught in that class brings awareness, and especially because, my wife is big into love and logic and raising our kids, right?
I love that platform.
Yeah, and so you don't think about those things, right? And so the same thing like this, when you go through it, you don't think about what we're putting on people's truth tapes,
Oh my
right?
gosh, right.
We don't think about the impact we're having on our children and how we act, right? Like we say and we do things and we think it's temporary, and we think, well, I just did this thing and I just had this outburst and I just whatever it was. We don't realize that, especially at a young age, we're making impacts that stay with them forever, and they
How
don't
they
even
look at the world, how they just from the talk this morning from Dr. Krieger.
Yeah.
She was talking about experiences and beliefs. So these young kids are having these experiences with their parents, and then they're building their belief system off of those experiences. And that's how we get to the truth tapes that are not serving us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so, like, dude, we're sitting in this class and all of these people that probably have told their boss about how great of an experience that they have at work begin to pour their heart out about all of these aspects of work that probably are not what they should be and not what they want to be, and things that need to be fixed. And the probably the most powerful one for me, and David's going to yell at me for this, is a particular situation that's probably close to your heart. But one in particular person says, like, I've been put in this position of responsibility, but I've been given no authority.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm like, I kind of do that. Right? I'm like really bad for that. And it's not that I don't give them authority. It's that I give them authority and then I question the authority and then I question the decision that was made. And you know what I mean?
And then you start becoming a micromanager.
Yeah. Shut up, David. I mean, it's bad. I know.
That's not helpful, just so you know. It doesn't help. Doesn't help your culture.
David, do you help your culture?
I'm hands off. I don't know. I don't mess with it. I don't meddle.
I'm bad. I do. I meddle a lot. I definitely do. There's no doubt about it.
Why does he meddle? You should psychoanalyze him.
Oh, I can. He's
I'm
got
broken.
some control issues.
Yeah.
Control issues.
I would say that we all are a little broken. I wouldn't say that he's broken based on what I know about him. I do believe that if he wants to change, that he can put in the work and he can do it.
You got to work on yourself, Lucas.
Yeah.
try.
But it's a commitment to a practice.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong practice of becoming more self-aware and then shifting behavior.
That's a big takeaway is self-aware.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because we have this perspective and we think everybody else has our perspective.
Right.
And so it's so stupid when you just sit back and really think about it. Like David thinks everybody hates the IRS like he does.
Everybody
I'm only
does hate
laughing
that.
because I have this conversation almost every day. I had it this morning with somebody who was really upset because their partner wasn't seeing from their point of view.
Yeah.
And I was saying, well, that's because that person brings all of their own beliefs and experiences to the
baggage.
table. And so
Yeah.
they are looking at it through different eyes. Well, why can't people just see it the way that I see it? It's so frustrating because that's people.
Yeah.
Every person.
Did they say that out loud and didn't as soon as they said it, went, it doesn't sound right.
No, because we do tend to think that, hey, I get it. Why can't you get it?
Yeah.
Well, I may say that because the other person is stupid, but but if it's a matter of opinion, not the IRS, that's fact. But if it's a matter of opinion, you got to understand. Everybody brings their own paradigms into it, right? Everybody's got their own mindset and beliefs and whatever. But for the person to sit there and go, "Why doesn't everybody understand the way I," like, what are you talking about? That is insane.
But it's not, because we come at everything with our own blinders on.
And over time, we
Those
back
are some
ourselves in.
big blinders.
But it's true.
It is.
And we don't realize it. I mean,
That person didn't realize it, apparently. I would have flicked him in the forehead.
No,
I would have been
this
like,
is a conversation I have all the time.
Really?
And I don't want to bash
I'm
somebody
glad.
or shame them. I want to help them.
I would be all the
see.
shaming.
Yeah, you're not going to take my job. I'm not worried about that.
It would be my pleasure in life to shame them to the point.
No.
If I don't have them crying, I did not do my job.
Yeah, you're definitely not taking over my job.
I think that because there's a lot of talk of the cognitive behavior therapy method versus a different, like, reprogramming your own
Is that like
brain.
electroshock therapy? Like,
No,
zap them every time they do something stupid?
Cognitive behavior
can
therapy
be.
is what I went through when I was doing the.
Every time you call poor Chris, I'm going to hook up them little paddles to you. And every time I hear you
Zap
say something
Yeah.
like,
Now
what
you're
I don't
trying
understand.
to change the thought patterns,
Yeah.
right? To
Yeah.
help you change your behaviors.
Yeah.
And going deeper.
Well, so I
There's
had
value in it.
I had like a really severe anxiety thing and went through. It was really cool because the college that's in our town has an anxiety clinic at it.
Ah, that's cool.
And it's one of the world's leading psychologists for anxiety. And dude travels from university to university, and he like helped them develop this whole program. And I managed to get into the program, and it was extremely beneficial. I did not realize that they were teaching me a different way to think, right? Like, because I was upset at the time. I didn't think that, right?
Oh, that
I
makes total sense.
Yeah, I had this perspective, and then by the time it was done, I thought, well, wait a minute, I don't think about that the same way I used to think about that, right? Like, it reprogrammed the pathway in my brain to see something differently.
That sounds like a success to me.
And it worked really well, and it did a lot for me. What do you see that we miss in the business world, right? Because like we tend to disconnect the human being, and we look at them as a number or a piece or a cog in the machine.
Right, as a revenue source.
Right. And the problem is that we forget, and even venture capital and private equity right now is saying, hey, we're not going to buy businesses that aren't human-centric.
Right.
Because they're not profitable. They don't
Right.
remain profitable. They might be profitable right now, but they don't remain profitable if they're not human-centric. What are we...
Or I would say just a slight correction to that they might be profitable. However, if they are human-centric, they're going to be exponentially more profitable.
Right. Well, and if they're not...
And if they're a mess, like nobody wants to touch a mess.
Right. Well, and if they're not human-centric, what tends to happen when they buy the business is everybody up and walks away.
Right. Or it falls apart
Right.
completely.
Listen,
Yeah.
we have an entire podcast talking about shifting towards robots.
I mean,
Everybody in the business, except for one person, robot. Then we don't have to worry about any of this.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Let me know how that works out.
Yeah.
Listen,
Just saying.
you say that now, but they've got robots that can clean your house now.
Yeah, but do they clean it the way you want it cleaned? I'm just saying.
David doesn't
They
even really
do
care if
like-
his house is clean. So, I mean, yeah, probably.
They do 70% of it.
Have you ever seen what happens to one of the little vacuum robots when the dog poops in the floor? Have you ever seen that? Yeah.
I bet there's a YouTube video on
There's
that, isn't
lots
there?
of YouTube videos of it.
I think I'm going to miss that
you're
one.
supposed to you're supposed to pick things up. Like don't leave the dog poop on the floor when we call her Sharky. When Sharky gets out there and starts cleaning things up. But they have bigger versions. And now they have like walking robots. You seen the Tesla robots? Like we are just a few years away from full-blown tech robots. And then I don't have to worry about any of this. Like I don't have to care about their feelings. Or you're not heard. Robot just tighten the lug nuts.
So
and that's it.
Are you married?
I am. Look.
Can I get her phone number?
Listen.
She's here.
Yeah.
She's here.
She'll be like, yeah. Look, she deals with people all day long too. And she works in
Because you're not going to marry a robot is the point I'm trying to make.
Well, I I mean, not me personally, but there's gonna be a lot of people marrying robots. Okay, so you are dead wrong on that one. There's gonna be lots of people buying robots
Yeesh.
for the purposes of marriage.
Oh my.
That's not going to be a part of this podcast. Okay.
I'm saying she has a job where she's got to deal with people, and there were some big policy changes that came down from on high. Big policy changes that all of a sudden shifted some of the initiatives and priorities within the organization. I mean, just overnight. Overnight, all of these like very feeling-centric priorities
Oh.
stopped being that. And they're like, hey, we're going to squash all of it. All of it is going to the scrapper, like overnight. Just we're scrapping all of it.
I'm curious what the impact was like.
So then it became a line of people outside of her office coming in to bitch and moan. Now, she put up with the first few bitching and moaning sessions, but by the 15th, complaining about really like, I feel like, okay, you still have your job, like, go do it. And then the next one, it's like, okay, I get it, but this is the new direction. Go do your job. It doesn't impact your job. You haven't lost your job. Just go back.
But it instantly changed the culture.
It did change the culture, but the problem was that the culture had shifted more towards nonsense and less towards productivity and performance.
But did the pendulum swing
The
completely
pendulum
to the other side?
Yeah, it did now.
Completely is ignoring that human-centric aspect of a culture that's not.
The problem
But
though
don't
is
the
that
people drive the human centric? Don't human beings like the leadership in
Leadership.
that
it depends
building?
on
Absolutely.
what the priorities are. It depends on what the priorities are, because you will have within an organization high performers, people that are focused on end game, on productivity, on efficiency. They are high performers, and you are alienating those people when all you do is focus on the fifis. If all you care about is the fifis for non-performers and you're accommodating non-performers, the top performers are going to leave the organization, and you're going to have this huge brain drain because of that. And
Top performers are going to leave the organization because why? Because
you are accommodating and you're overly accommodating to the feelings of people that are mid performers or non-performers.
Yeah, well, that's
just
a
so
problem.
you can. Well, yeah. And so that's what it came down to, is that they were spending money, time, energy, and productivity on nonsense.
Because that also
To make-
negatively impacts the culture.
Sure.
When you're just giving out participation awards, that's not helpful.
It turned into that.
Yeah.
It turned into like, we are going to. It became about. I'm trying not to get too into the weeds here, but it got to the point where they were placating people just with words, just so they make them feel a certain way, without it having any significant impact on their lives, on the organization. But they felt good about hearing the words and getting the awards and having the name on the front of their office, like, this type of manager and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not really a role, dude. Like, that's not anything.
That's also not
like,
really a human-centric culture in the sense
Yeah,
of
for sure.
positive culture, because that's driving negative culture, and it's driving toxicity, because when the high performers are seeing that these people are being placated and given the participation awards, then it plummets their motivation, their curiosity, their innovation. They feel like, well, what's the point?
Why would I
do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
I think the balancing act, though, is extremely difficult, because I think
It's
like
extremely
in our
important.
I think it's impossible. I do. I know, because you're like, this is what I do every day. I get that, but I'm saying from a execution standpoint,
Yeah.
you have an organization where you want it to be people focused, and so you make them feel heard and recognized and all of that mushy nonsense, but then like it can swing too far it is a tightrope that you are walking on, because the minute it swings the other way, now the inmates run the asylum.
However, if you are driving it in the right way, where you understand what it means to be human-centric, where you understand what a high-performance culture is and how to create it, you understand emotional intelligence and how it drives leadership, then you are not placating everybody. You are not placating anybody.
Sure.
Right.
You are helping them to meet goals, and you're also identifying those people that don't belong in the company, that don't belong in the role that they're in. Maybe they can be somewhere else doing something different that is better. But you don't hold on to those people that need participation awards or just pat on the back for nothing.
That's exactly right, because that was one of the big points that came out in that. And it's about having hard discussions too.
Yes.
Right? Instead of like filtering out the hard discussions, it was really that class talks about you need to have the hard discussion. One of the coolest things I took away from it was permission to coach.
I love that.
Right? I thought that was so cool.
That came from Cindy and Russ Reason, who own a shop up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And I love that. I've been sharing that with all my clients. Permission to coach.
And so, like, whether it was they were talking to the owner, whether they were talking to another person, they would say, "Hey, permission to coach." In other words, it was a verbal cue to say, "Hey, we need to talk about this." And it was almost like saying, "Hey, I need you to not be defensive. I need you. We need to talk."
Yes.
Right. And so they had come up with.
Listen, if you walked up to me and said permission to coach, like, no. And then I would walk away.
Yeah, see, then you wouldn't be a part of their team. I actually loved it so much because what it did was it just established that this is going to be a conversation that's matter of fact. I'm going to share some information with you. And the owners have taken it so well that they've created this culture of trust that they feel that they can go to the owner and say, "Hey, you need to not answer the phones. Hey, you need to not do this. You need to, or you don't need to."
Is that a trust thing? I get yelled at all the time.
Because you're not, but they're not getting yelled at. That's the thing.
No, I'm getting yelled at.
Who's yelling at you? Who do we need to?
My staff.
Well, okay.
They listen. If you
There's a difference between getting. Well, hang on
That
a
hurts
second.
my feelings sometimes. They're mean.
I find that hard to believe.
It's true.
yeah.
Lucas, you want to share? You want to give me some of his background here?
Listen. There's videos. There's videos, and like a lot of people thought that he was being mean to his staff. But all you see is across the shop, he's got a toboggan on, and it's got like a little floofy thing on top of it, and you see this thing like bouncing back and forth as he's screaming, and like things are flying through the shop, and he's just like making his way through the shop, screaming and yelling.
There was people that on there like, if you yelled at me like that, I'd walk out. And like, okay, whatever. Anyway.
I can see that you and I will not be working together anytime soon.
That hurts my feelings
He
too.
probably needs it more than anybody I know,
But
right?
I don't see him as being open to.
You know what?
You know what I tell Juan, I'm like, hey, you need to, because you do want to get, I need you to focus on what I'm about to tell you. So you need to be in the right mindset to receive what it is I'm about to tell you.
Yes, and that's what at the end of the day, that's what this was.
I could not say permission coaching. I would feel like that is not going to be something that comes out of my mouth. But I say,
you know what?
hey,
it works really well for them, right?
Yeah.
So you find what works well for you, but the idea is to
can I
open
give you some
the
feedback?
door.
Is what I say.
Yes,
Can I give you some feedback?
Same thing.
That's great.
Can I give you some
Yes.
feedback?
Yeah.
You can say no. I'm okay with the no because you may not be in the right spot. You're busy. Maybe you're ahead somewhere else, right? Hey, can I give you some feedback? Can you come back in a few minutes?
I typically start with a sling, like this whole slew of expletives, and they know that we need to talk about something.
Yeah, I know. I heard you on the phone.
I'd say
Poor
that's-
Chris.
That's not.
You know what? I don't think you're not mean to Chris. You're mean to Eric. You take it out on poor Eric. Eric takes it.
Yeah, but
and
how
then
does he
you're-
take it?
He likes it. He enjoys it.
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah. I think he does.
He's a glutton for punishment.
He is a glutton for punishment.
Listen,
And you gotta sometimes for Lucas, he's gotta have that punching bag. And I feel bad for poor Eric, but
But do you really
takes
feel
it.
bad for poor Eric?
I do. Because he's mean to Eric.
But how does Eric take it when he leaves at the end of the day? Is he creating truth tapes? That
I
he's
think
bad
it's a little
person
bit of
because-
Stockholm syndrome at this point.
we have
It
this.
is.
We have this
harsh.
cross. We have this bi-directional thing He kicks me in the nether regions. I kick him in the nether regions. He comes in my office and
Does he
releases his flatulence in my office, and it runs down his leg, drips on my floor.
None of that happens. None of that happens. I have never
swear-
seen him raise a hand at you. Poor Eric.
Oh yeah,
I've
Or
seen
lift
you.
a butt cheek, though. Have you seen
No,
him lift a butt cheek?
I was on top of a truck one time, and like my knees are on the front of the truck, and he comes up and just wham like that, and he's like, "I never knew that the payback would last 7 years." And so, like,
Wow.
You got to know, Eric, I know he listens to these. Eric, you got to know before you start something, you got to know the end game. Is this the type of person that is going to like let bygones be bygones and maybe get you back once and hey, we're even now and then just let it go? Or is this person going to go to the ends of the earth for forever to remind you of that one time you did something to them? And if they're that type of person, leave it alone.
That's called self-awareness and being able to then regulate what you're going to say or do. So knowing that, what do I want to have happen here? Do I really want?
So are you saying that Eric at no point had enough self-awareness to go, hey, I need to...
It was on his second day. He
well,
wouldn't
yeah,
have
but
had
you
any
still...
awareness.
I mean, people randos, like, you got to know.
He was not self-aware. If he pulled that on you in the first couple of days, then because what was he expecting? What did he think was going to happen? He didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but I'm
Eric,
sure
I'm not throwing you under the
Lucas
bus,
was jabbing a little bit, and he thought, oh, I got a playful boss, which Lucas is playful, but the problem is that if you do something to Lucas, expect it 8 million times back over and over and over and over. There's no let up. Just that's how he is. And so he's relentless. And so he needed to at least...
But that video was so good.
He needed to know, like, hey, but is this person going to let up? Am I going to be able... Is it just going to be a back and forth? Or is it just going to be entirely one-sided for the next 10 years? That's what he needed to at least consider. Like, stop and think.
Yes, I agree. Stop and think.
Listen, if you don't want a video of you digging in your rear end and then smelling your hand,
no, he didn't
post it on Facebook.
He was adjusting his beard. He was like,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here with a couple of 12-year-olds.
Yes, you are. You're just now figuring this out. We're shop owners. Shop owners
15 minutes ago.
Shop owners are 12-year-olds. Like emotionally and mentally, we're 12-year-olds.
But she was just talking about emotional intelligence.
Yeah, we don't have any.
Yes, you do. To at least some degree, you do. And then we're going to work on getting more and building more. But I never want you to lose the 12-year-old either. Like, have fun, enjoy yourself, enjoy life.
So hold up. Why? Okay, you look at a Dutch. Do you know Dutch?
No.
Okay.
Should I?
Yeah, probably. Dutch is old school, right?
Well, I can't say.
He's old man, and he's from the Bronx, and he was raised in a different world, and he flew aircraft in a time when, like, hey, this is your job, and there's no exception to that, right? Your job's to get the people safely from point A to point B. And the way you tie your shoes matter, and the way you tie your tie matters, and the way you wear your hat matters, and everything you do matters. And it influences the consumer that's on the airplane, and they see you in a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. Hate flying with him, okay? You don't want to fly with him because he's the guy.
He's neurotic. He looks around and he's like, they're doing that wrong.
Yeah.
That should be like this like this.
He's the dude who will drag the captain out of the left seat and tell him that he's not to get on the airplane wearing his hat like that, right? Like, it's a thing, right? And so we recorded a reel of Dutch at an event a while back, and he said something that I thought was interesting. He says, I live in this world of people who want to hug a tree, but I was raised in a world that it was your job. And he said it didn't matter if the wind was blowing 200 miles an hour. It didn't matter if you were low on fuel. It didn't matter how great it was. Your job was to land the plane. And
Safely.
the chief pilot's not going to give you a pat on the back and say, attaboy, because it was your job. That's what you were supposed to do. have we lost some of, like, where's it supposed to fall in the middle of that? Because like us rough and brash shop owners really feel like, hey, I said thank you, I gave you a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right?
The paycheck is the thank you.
Yeah, we're in a different world. So my brother John that owns his shops, and he and I were raised by our dad was born in 1911.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Different
Depression
world. Yeah.
era, World War eras that he went through, and that's how we were raised. So John was raised, hey, you should know that we're working on this car together. You should know how to do it already.
Yeah.
And that's how we were raised. And so that's how he started out doing business. But he has learned over the years that he gets a much better result from people when he does recognize their efforts. Now, it's not that you did your job, you worked 8 hours, great. That's awesome. Again, not a participation award. Don't give out participation awards. But when somebody has done a good job and they have gone above and beyond, and maybe they had an engine repair that was super challenging, but they figured it out, they got the resources and they got it done. Acknowledge that. Absolutely acknowledge that, because it makes people want to. That's where the intrinsic motivation starts building. It's like, oh wow, what I'm doing matters. You're helping them realize that the work they do matters,
Right.
and so then they want to do it.
How do we, because there's a lot of people, especially old gruff shop owners, who say, well, I don't want that, right? I want to do it the way I've been doing it.
Sure.
And I shouldn't have to do that. But it's also a big part of why our industry is where it's at right now.
I agree.
And
They don't have to. They can do whatever they want, but there's going
Right.
to be consequences to whatever they decide to do or not to do.
right.
And in my experience and my opinion, if they can at least swing a little bit back over with that pendulum to give some recognition and help people feel good about what they're doing, they're going to help raise the industry. There are going to be more people that are like, yeah, I want to do that. Here's the other side of this, though. Have you had a chance to talk to Sarah Fraser? So her dad is Bill Haas.
Yeah, I've not talked to her in a while, but I mean,
Okay.
I've spoken to her a couple times.
I had her come speak to our Nowaka chapter, and she was talking about hiring practices and how these the younger generations are different.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to work. They're not going to work for you if you can't at least give them something that is human-centric.
Yeah.
Acknowledge them, be appreciative of the work that they're doing. So you're not going to, they might come to work for you as a job, but they're not going to stay as a career.
Yeah. I remember, and I've told it before, but I remember when there was an old man that owned a Volkswagen shop in town, and I long story short, walked in and he wouldn't even speak to one of the clients until he knew that he worked with me, right? Like, and then he was nice to him, and I'll never forget the lady behind the counter. I said, "What makes him like that?" And she said, "Well, he spent his life making everybody else's problems his problems, right?"
Yeah.
And so like he's internalized all these things and made it about like they're upset about their car, so I'm upset at them and I'm mad and I'm this and I'm that. And he became extraordinarily bitter, especially towards the end of life, right? Like he was a very bitter man. And when he lost the ability to work, the outlet for that bitterness went away. And so the problem that I see is that there's no haptic feedback. Like, so we go home and we act the same way. And like my view of relationships is that we're supposed to be in these relationships and we take and we give, right?
Yep.
We're individual human beings and we're trying to make the world a better place by what we do together, and we're trying to march forward, and we're taking our families with us and we're going to this place. But oftentimes when we're in that spot and we're in that mindset, we come home as shop owners and we act like shop owners when we get home.
Yes, you do.
And so I like got in this really bad loop for a while, and Alex had a fit with me because, and my coach at the time was Rick White, and he said, "Look, dude, you are screwing this up." And I said, "What do you mean I'm screwing this up?" He said, "You're so worried about the shop that you're going home and you're not being a dad or a husband.
Right.
And then you're coming to work because you screwed up at home and you're mad at yourself for not being a dad or a husband. So now you're not really being a shop owner at work. Like, we got to break this cycle somehow."
Agreed.
And so I worry about the health of families, and especially in shop owners who are really going through a hard time. The shop's not performing financially, right? We lost. You think it's okay to mention that?
Maybe.
we lost a industry person.
Malin.
Well, no, we lost somebody else.
Oh no.
It was a murder-suicide type thing. And it was a good friend of all of ours. And it was like the entire family came out and said, hey, this was a mental health thing. This wasn't, and it was posted on Facebook and it was for the world to see. And it was a whole deal, right? And we don't really talk about those struggles because we're tough, gruff men. And so we're not supposed to talk about those things.
But you're a human, and I encourage you to talk about those things.
Yeah.
And learn to talk about those things. And hopefully we're seeing a shift, slow, painful shift, to be able to normalize that mental health problems, everybody's going to experience them to some degree throughout the course of their lifetimes.
For sure. Well, I mean, they're learned behaviors, right? They're learned thought processes.
Yes.
The way that
there's also the biochemical aspect as well.
Right.
At the same time, there's so much that can be done to help people these days. There's so much that can be done.
Well, like what stands out to me about like I was telling about the cognitive behavior therapy thing, like what that doctor said to me that really resonated. He's like, okay, so you imagine you're driving down this like road and it's muddy and you're driving this vehicle down the road and you're on a tractor and it's cut ruts out. And he said, so your mind has programmed this pattern in this direction and it believes this is what you do. And he said, like the first question he asked me is like, hey, does anybody in your family like have any weird things? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, for instance, do they hold like a paper towel in their hand and like scrunch the paper towel up? And I was like, that's so funny because like my mom, my uncle, my grandmother, and my aunt on one side of the family all do that. And he said, well, you probably learned some of these behaviors that created these thought patterns that wired your brain this way. And so if we can rewire this, if we can get you to think differently and do something differently, we're going to have a different outcome, right? And so in that process, I learned to teach myself to think differently, right? Like open my eyes to the fact that I can shift the way I act and behave. I don't think a lot of people do that. I mean, like, look at you. You're just a raging asshole.
And you stay that way.
Yeah.
So
and nothing's changed.
No.
If anything, you've gotten more bitter and...
The shop's making me bitter. The cars are making me bitter. It's the cars.
The cars. Yeah.
Why do the cars make you bitter?
Because they're assholes.
They are.
They don't stay fixed.
Like I said, they're assholes.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that.
But I mean, like of car repairs, I don't know how shop owners do it. They're nuts. They're delusional. Is what they are. They are.
No, they're not delusional. They know the cars are going to break in. That's why they're still in business.
Well, but I mean, like I used to really hardcore internalize when something went wrong in the shop, and I couldn't get over the fact that the car broke. And then I realized, like, hey, this is not healthy. I'm making myself sick.
Right.
And like I'm expecting these things to be perfect and things to go the way they're supposed to, but they don't ever do that. So let's just think about this differently.
That's a problem for me. I'm just saying.
But kudos
I'm in the wrong
to
business.
You, Lucas, not you, for being able to be self-aware and learning and working with a therapist that was helping you to become more self-aware of destructive patterns and then guide you to more constructive ones. I have a huge fear of flying. And it was really, really bad. And I was able to figure out over the years that it tied into the fact that I get incredibly airsick.
Oh, really?
And the feeling of getting sick and the feeling of panic, the physiology is
like
the
being
same.
in a place where you can't, like everybody's going to see.
And so it crossed over into, okay, I just have this fear of flying when really it was getting sick. And it got really bad after I flew to Ireland and passed out on the plane on the way over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And I pass out, and then it gets worse and worse. And then I start like, okay, I want to have my life, and my life is going to include going to conferences and speaking, going to meeting with clients across the country. Yeah. I got to get a handle on this, and I started the tapes, the desensitization tapes, the cognitive behavioral therapy approach to it, and really, really working on it. But first and foremost, the first thing had to be I had to figure out how not to throw up on a plane.
Yeah, right.
Or pass out.
How did that work out?
I wear a patch. And I have the relief band that I wear. And I mean, at first it was everything. It was the relief band, the patch. I had another electronic device that helped me calm down. I would listen to podcasts or the Calm app. And I started listening to the podcasts around how flying is safe, and it would walk me through meditations, and eventually now I wear a patch.
Right.
And I always pay to sit in the front of, not first class, but I need to pay to sit up closer so that I'm not in the part of the plane
that's bouncing up and down.
Exactly.
The back bounce?
Yes, it is more bumpy.
Yeah, it really is.
It is.
Especially if Dutch is flying.
I'm not going to fly with Dutch.
No, I will give him this. I explicitly trust him when it comes to that. I mean, he is a stickler for the rules and a stickler for the book, and here's how we're going to do it. I mean, I will give him that. You don't have to worry about process, policy, procedure being followed with that guy. He's going to follow it.
So where in the world does Dutch live?
He is in Charlotte or Pineville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Came from up north and moved down, just sold his shop. It's a very unique human being. I can't believe you've not met him yet.
Well, I am West Coast based, so that might have something to do with it.
I'm going to invite him to a class that you're coming to. That's just all there is to it now.
Okay.
So, biggest takeaway, what do you, we talk about leadership intensive. Mm-hmm. And I think every shop owner should come to leadership intensive at least once.
I do too.
Right? Because this is really about developing a culture that can make your business successful.
Absolutely.
Right? And then the Institute comes in and creates this entire pathway for business success that is sustainable.
Yes.
Right? Like
absolutely.
that, at the end of the day, it's sustainable. It's not I'm giving you this list of tasks. It's how do we build a foundation, a good business that does what the business does, right?
Absolutely.
And so if that is the case, what's the next step? If a shop owner is sitting here saying, you know what? I'm not into this hojo mojo, whatever you want to call it, right? What would you say to them to encourage them to come? And what do you think the first step of that self-realization is?
First of all, do a tiny little bit of research on AI or Google, and you will see that your revenue will increase significantly if you become more self-aware, if you start adopting emotional intelligence practices, if you're learning about the leadership, if you come to a leadership intensive and take away 3 things that you're going to apply from that, you're going to see a difference in your business. You're going to see a difference in your relationships.
Right.
Absolutely. So if you don't want your life to be better, if you don't want your business to be better, then don't come.
Right.
If you are inspired to put in some effort, then show up and then take something away with you and work on it. Don't just come and sit there and do nothing and then leave and do nothing.
Right.
Take some notes and then take a look at your notes and decide, okay, I'm going to pick 3 things
and that
I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on. And pick an accountability partner from there and say, hey, can we be accountability partners and make sure that we are actually following up? Or bring somebody from your shop that then the two of you will hold each other accountable for implementing change and incorporating the practice. And then you can reach out to Michael, you can reach out to me. And if you're stuck, we'll help you get past being stuck.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And you know, what I would say is that especially after knowing Michael for a while and talking with Michael, this is the same strategy that extremely successful businesses are using to be successful.
Absolutely. And not just small ones.
Right. We're talking about big businesses, Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies that are saying this is the only way that we're going to be successful in this marketplace. And, you know, right after that, I went to Tulsa for a Velo meeting, and they're a software company. They run a lot of different softwares. And I thought it was so interesting because Lisa Coyle, who is here at this show, had been part of 360 Payments for a long time and had been part of Velo for a long time. And it was so crazy because you could see cues of the culture that Lisa brings to the table in all of the employees of the organization. And you could see that the culture is driving from the ground level up, which that's the first time I've ever experienced something like that, where you can see that the staff is developing and supporting and nurturing the culture to keep it moving in a positive direction. And leadership is saying, here's the guardrails. how do we support you within these guardrails, right?
That's amazing. I love it.
And so for an organization of that size to pull it off to the level, I mean, if you ever get a chance to go tour their facility or talk to any of their people, it's crazy. I mean, like, I was really impressed by it. If they can do it, we can do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because it's on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
All it does is start with one person, the leader at the top, to recognize the value and start to implement some minor changes.
I agree, but I think we have baggage.
Oh, we all do. And the industry does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the thing is like I think about interactions I've had with staff members, and over time, that baggage builds up, and we say this thing, we do this thing, and then this happens, and then that happens. And the next thing you know, you've got this feeling about this person, whether it's true or not.
Absolutely.
Whether it lines up with facts or not is irrelevant. It's that I feel this way because this has happened, right? I don't trust this person, or I'm not going to give this person this. Look at what they did this one time, right? If that's where you're at, how do you reset that? What's the reset button to get us? Is there a reset button to where it's like, all right, I'm going to.
Yes, it takes a commitment to coaching, a commitment to the process, a commitment to. I work with clients all the time working with them to get to a point where, hey, this isn't personal. This isn't about me. Recognizing that the person that you're unhappy with.
That's a hard
I
struggle.
know it. And I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it always works. But to continue the conversation, to continue the practice of letting go. And it's a lifelong practice of letting go. It's none of my business what you think of me.
Yeah.
I want you to like me. It's none of my business.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the more that I can accept that, then it's like, okay, just be me.
Yeah.
Just be me, and I will attract my tribe. And at work, you're not going to like everybody. Not everybody is going to like you. Think about all the people you don't like. It is okay. You can't expect that you can go through life not liking all sorts of people and that everybody's going to like you. You don't want everybody to like you, then you'd have to be friends with everybody, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, Lucas.
David hates everybody, and it works out really well for him.
Have respect for each other.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure it out between the two of you, bring somebody else in. One of my favorite things to talk about is if there is conflict, instead of it being me against you, instead it's going to be me and you working on the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's a policy, a procedure, or we have some conflict and we're seeing things from a completely different perspective. Like, okay, Lucas, I'm really pissed off at you because you did blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, wait a second. It's not about you, Lucas. It's about what happened or what I perceived that you did. So now we're standing here looking out in a different direction. Like, okay, what's the problem? This is the problem. How can we work together to figure it out and get past it? We don't have to like each other.
As a young man, I think my biggest challenge to overcome, and I see some of this in David too, to this day, but the competitive nature in us tends to make us about winning, not about like we're not talking about the war, we're talking about the battle, right? And so we're really interested in winning that particular battle, and so it's about being right now. It's not about the long-term impact of being right now.
Correct. I'm laughing because did you guys see the red light, green light games yesterday?
No, we were in here recording. Okay. They don't let us go to games and stuff like that. Kent and Cecil came in and said, listen, we want this many episodes. You two are to be in here. We don't want you out in the field. We need you in here recording. That was the ultimatum we were given. And
the reason that I'm laughing is because one person went to the emergency room yesterday, and there's another person that I know went to urgent care today because they were going to win.
Right. You'll hurt yourself to win.
Yes.
And we don't think about the consequence. And that was something, especially me and my wife, when we started kind of like turning a corner in our relationship, was like, we have these two little things that are like us, and they have their personalities, and they do these things, and we want them to be successful, and we want them to have good lives. And for that to happen, it can't be I'm going to win or you're going to win. It has to be
Right.
that like, hey, let's go in a direction, right? And
We
like,
want to
if,
win as parents.
right, if we're going to go in a positive direction, like let's decide where we want to go and let's help each other get to where we want to go. You're a human being. I'm a human being. Let's work together to make this a better place. Or we can be miserable and we can fight about everything and it can be about me being right and you being right or right.
Right.
But at some point you got to make a decision like, hey, I'm kind of going to get over myself.
Yeah,
right?
please get over yourself.
And it's the ego thing, right? I have to be right. And
When you can get to the point where you can acknowledge that no, you don't, that's
Yeah.
when you really start winning.
yeah, for sure. Because like poor David here, his competitive nature, he always has to be right. And he's so smart that the problem is usually he's right. But David has no grace. Okay? David does not extend grace to people. He just thinks they're all stupid.
Well, I kind of did hear you say that earlier, so I can't really defend you.
It's true.
I mean, I don't disagree. Like
Oh, there you go.
when you're as smart as David is, I guess a lot of people are wrong.
Well,
But-
we like to go around, saying everybody else is the idiot, and it's hard for us to acknowledge that we are also idiots at times.
Oh, let me tell you, I am getting really good at acknowledging that at this point. David reminds me daily. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yes, ma'am.